Hey, everybody, as we approach a momentous landmark with our 200th episode of the Tech Intersect Podcast, swoon, gasp, I am filled with a deep sense of gratitude and reflection from my day ones and the one who was today years old when you're actually being introduced to the Tech Intersect Podcast. This milestone, it isn't just a number, it's a testament to our journey of education, exploration, and empowerment together from our very first episode. Tech Intersect has been steadfast in its mission to prepare our listeners for their practice, their profession, and your portfolios for the future of work, wealth, and innovation. And reaching the 200th episode is a rare achievement in the podcasting world. Statistically, very few shows actually make it this far, women. So in honor of Women's History Month, it's particularly significant to acknowledge this milestone and the space that we've created to amplify voices at the intersection of technology, law, and business. And our show has transformed over time, but has always focused on producing and introducing diverse perspectives, cutting edge topics, and your commitment, my commitment, our commitment to this point of view has always remained steadfast. So we're celebrating this landmark episode with Dr. Tammy Francis, a leader who embodies the spirit of the show. So I invite you to join us kind of behind the scenes here on LinkedIn Live and when you listen after the fact to focus on the persistence and the growth in the community. The episode isn't about looking back necessarily, although that is certainly important, but we are also looking forward to the innovations and transformations yet to come. So cheers to 200 episodes. Here's to many more as we continue to explore, to educate, to empower. Let's dive into this special episode and welcome our special guest, Dr. Tammy Francis, also known as the Catalyst, a powerhouse in the realms of education, blockchain, purpose-driven leadership. We talked about that last time when she was on the show. As the CEO and founder of Catalyst for Change Global LLC, a tenured associate professor in Texas, significant contributions to blockchain education. Dr. Tammy of this show. We're going to talk about where we are and where we go from here. We'll talk about all of that and more in a moment. But first, Dr. Tammy, welcome to this special episode.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you so much for inviting me to share this special episode. And cheers. I was doing cheers in the background,
Cheers.
but when you said that, and so thank you so much. This is very special, and I definitely consider it an honor and a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Well, let's start here. Share with the listeners and the viewers what drives your passion for uplifting communities through financial education and Web3 technologies.
Oh, love that question. And I can go on, so I'm going to try to give the short version. So, I've been an educator for 23, this is my 24th year in a traditional educational system. And I've done things in the last 7 years in blockchain, the crypto space. And the one thing that I always want people to think about, and like with my business, I'm purpose driven. So I think I want you to connect what you're hearing, you're seeing, the buzz, all of that to where you are right now. Where are you today, and how does this apply to where you are? I think sometimes we talk in abstracts and people don't really understand, like, how does that apply to me? What about me? And so I like to, from what I do, I like to go in and let's see where you are. And let's see how you can leverage these opportunities. How can you reskill, upskill, or retool in whatever you're doing? And so I pull that education piece because I work with students who are underprepared and underserved. And so in college, and they're thinking, okay, I'm starting having to take all these prerequisites and I have to move through this. So it's going to take me a little longer. Well, with the technology advancements and how innovation just rapidly happens, in 4 to 6 years when they graduate, they must also think about will this career, will this job be viable? Will I have marketable skills? And so I just think it's one of the things that I take from my education experience and say, hey, so when I go out into communities, when I'm working on the different boards, when I'm working with the different populations, I take that same thing, like, where are you? And where are you going? And so that's what fuels everything that I do. And I want to apply it to their college or career or entrepreneurship, even if that's what they want to do.
Yeah, have you seen the changes in students? I certainly know one of my courses is blockchain, crypto, and the law. And I've seen an increasing amount, not only of interest, but kind of the in-depth knowledge that they bring to the table. It's actually, in particular this year, shout out to the students who are watching. I'll see you tomorrow at 3:30. Be prepared. On time is late. You know how I do. But the enthusiasm, the interest, the deep dive that they take, because they are starting, those synapses are firing and they are making the connection, not just this is nice to have information, but need to know. So do you find them bringing even more intellectual curiosity and a commitment to incorporate what you're teaching them and what they're learning into what they will do as they go out into the world?
Yes. I think, but I think there's also not, they don't really know what
Mm,
those things are. So like some of the modules that I've incorporated in my course. So I teach developmental education courses and in literacy, reading and writing. And so even in that, I've incorporated the future of work. I've
mm,
incorporated some of these topics that we'll be talking about today into the course because I want them to think about, what does the digital economy look like? What does this future of work look like? What does the future of learning even looks like for me? Will I end up in the metaverse? Those
mm,
type of things. And so what I find is that some of them, they're open to learning, which is not always been the case, but they're open to, oh, I heard about this, I heard about that. Really, you know this?
mm,
And then some are actually realizing that what I want to do is what my family wants me to do. What I want to do, what I want to learn is what my family think I should learn is traditional. And like even this semester, I had a student in my class who's into gaming, and I was asking him, have you even considered esports at all? You
mhm.
know, things like that. So what I found is now they're like, oh, I think with all the buzz and all the terminology and things, floating around, they're now more open to that. And so they're coming to me with, okay, I must think about the future. I must think about some of these things that I'm hearing. And so I think they're more open to learning. They're not like, no, I'm not. It's more of, yeah, tell me more.
Hmm. How did you find your way to the topic? I know we talked about it the last time you're here, but for those who are not familiar with your journey, and I think about my own journey, I'm one of the more risk-averse people that people would actually meet. But given the topic, given
Yeah,
the book and everything I do, it's difficult for people to see, Professor Tanya before
right.
and where I am now, and kind of connecting to my book, Digital Money Demystified. As you began your journey, when you were introduced, were there myths and misconceptions and fears that you had to confront in order to move forward?
Oh, that's interesting. I think for me, it was just because it was tech.
Mm,
Because I've always been interested in tech in the classroom and tech in education and tech and learning and researching those things. But then when I heard this big term, blockchain, and
mm,
then this other term, cryptocurrency, and it was more so the fears that others projected onto the industry that I
right.
started to wait, because I was really open. I was like, okay, well, let's figure this out. Let's see how this relates to what I
Good.
do. But then I heard all these other things, oh, all the scams, all this and that. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, whoop, 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 take a step back.
Mhm.
But I think for me, it was just because I knew that I had to, because it was so quote unquote new. Not really, but it was new as far as what the explosion and the
Right.
people talking about it. It was new in that sense. No one had really talked about it, especially as it relates to education. There was a few institutes around the country that were starting their blockchain institutes and doing some things with it and starting to do some
Mhm.
research. But it really was, and education is always the last to the table when it comes to tech and implementing technology. And so what I found was I knew I had to learn more. than
Hmm.
just like the basic, like what it was. I had to really learn it. So that part scared me because I
Yeah.
really had to dive a little deeper because no one knew, everything. There were no experts, quote unquote. And so, which I still think is the same today. We're still learning, we're
Right.
still in training. But I will say that we know a lot more than we did 7 years ago, 8 years ago. And so because of that, I knew I had to dive deeper. So I think that's what scared me the most. That was where my fear was like, oh my
Mhm.
goodness, now I have to venture out in this whole different industry and really become a techie. I've always been kind of tech adjacent and dibble dabble, just put my toe in here and there, and just knew enough to be dangerous. But I found,
Mhm.
okay, now I really have to know more in order to teach it, in order to implement it, and that's where I think the fear came. But yeah, I think it was a lot of all this stuff floating around as well. So yeah,
Yeah, we fear what we don't understand, right? And then
yeah.
when I think of my own training as I'm looking for risk, I'm looking for legal issues, I'm looking to avoid, um, eradicate, diminish risk,
Hmm.
particularly in the legal environment. And then when I think about the regulatory uncertainty and in some sense, we have existing a web, almost a morass of laws and rules and regulations. We also have the alphabet soup on the hill when I think about the various legislative committees in charge of oversight of the agencies that are created by legislation. Then we have the soup of regulators, and we have this existing framework where we have financial products now, and then other implicated industries. It's just not a neat fit. And usually,
Hmm.
when you have kind of an exotic or new product that comes on the market, it settles in some form or fashion within the framework of existing laws. Now we have this programmable digital asset that has attributes of a medium of exchange, so functions like a currency, but here in the United States and in other places around the world, taxed as property. So we have capital gains, and it can change its character over
Hmm.
time. We see that with Ethereum, for example, started out, I think it's pretty safe to say, as an unregistered security, but by the time it was sufficiently decentralized, then it, at least in my opinion, the CFTC's opinion, we'll see about the SEC. That's a story for
Right.
another day. The fact that at least we can call Bitcoin and I believe ETH as a commodity. So I say all that to say it transforms over time.
Mhm.
I have been challenged by that as an educator.
Mhm.
Every time I teach, it's completely different.
Right.
I feel like when I stay away for a few hours from crypto Twitter, I don't know what the heck's going on, and it could be completely different, right? The
Right.
price,
Good
the
price.
regulations, the
Mhm.
headlines. How have you navigated the dynamic nature of educating in this kind of emerging industry as well, with so many changes, so many things to learn? How it's disintermediating sectors and industries. It's a lot for an educator, at least from my point of view, and I'm
Yes.
interested in your thoughts as well.
I agree. So what I do is I listen to Tech Intersect.
I didn't even set that up, but I like it. It's a good
Yeah,
place to start.
honestly, like seriously, like I listen to the podcast every week. I listen
Oh,
because I know that you invite different people from different industries. And so
mhm,
to say that, not just Tech Intersect, but also those people who are talking, right? Those who are, some of the trailblazers and those who are really in the know. I listen
mhm,
to those broadcasts, I read those articles. I really have to stay abreast. And sometimes I'll be honest,
mhm.
my life is busy for me. Sometimes it's just talking to my friends in the space, and they'll
Oh,
say, "Did you see it this morning? It was 71." Da, 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 da." And I'm like, "Whoa!" Like last time before I went to the conference, before I started traveling, it was at 60, whatever, right? So
right.
sometimes it's even and that was just a week ago. And so, I one, it's really important for me to stay current by, talking to people and people
Mhm.
that I trust. So that's key, right? Don't talk to anyone. People that I
Absolutely.
trust and reading those things that are, the articles and things. And some of the things that I don't necessarily agree with, but I read all of that. And I think for me, I think I read more than I share. to be
Mm,
honest, as an educator, because I do know that some of that is overwhelming and a lot of it is up in the air and is undecided. We don't know what's going to happen. And so I really extract what I think is important to the people that I work with. And that's what I share.
it's important to have that diversity of view and perspective. I think, particularly in our position as educators,
Mhm.
and I enjoy our lane very much because personally and professionally, I've benefited not only from the underlying technology, but cryptocurrencies as well. I'm a diamond hand. I set it and forget it. But I very much appreciate the nature of a balanced portfolio. I've done all of the traditional things. I personally believe that the traditional approach, particularly as a woman of color, black woman, that it's not enough. And
Mhm.
that's for everyone. It's
Mhm.
not enough to be well educated, although I'm happy that I am. It's not enough to own real estate, although I own property. It's
Right.
not enough to have stocks and bonds, although I've done those things as well. And I
Right.
do know, as a Black community in general, and women in particular, we lag in legacy participation, but not for lack of interest.
Mhm.
Sometimes it's access to information. More often than not, we don't know what we don't know.
Right.
Right? Or when you think of the historical ways that people build generational wealth, wealth that you create in one generation, you protect it, you grow
Mhm.
it, and then through the laws of descendancy, you can pass it on to the next generation, right?
Yeah.
But if you have those traditional things, I'm interested in your opinion on this housing market, but you have people redlining, or if
Mhm.
you value one property to sell to get to another, same property, but if a black person as opposed to a white person, or you have to like feel like I got to take down all my African stuff and put up Leave It to Beaver so that I can
Yeah.
get, the
Get it
right
sold.
property
Mhm.
valuation. When I think of retirement accounts, if you don't have the
Mhm.
type of career that supports a 401k or 403b, all of those things weigh into the traditional metrics. But now we as Black people actually over index in crypto because of the absence of intermediaries. So even our approach to
Yeah.
how we create generational wealth has to shift. So I'm just interested in your thoughts on that as well.
I totally agree. I think that this is, and that's what I tell people, this is a good time to learn more, to get in. Some of those other things, yes, we've kind of learned how to navigate, like you
Mm,
say, changing what's going on in our house so we can get a right, sale for our property and
mhm,
things like that. But I think in the crypto space, this is an opportunity for us to go in and start small. And you can start at whatever level that you
absolutely.
want. Not financial advice, but you can start at whatever level that is comfortable for you. The thing
Mhm,
is to start learning. Education is really big for me, just
mhm,
around what you're doing and just start. And I recommend people like just start where you can monitor $5. Just
mhm,
just and just see what happens. But I think this is a great time for us to really just get into something, learn something, read about it, figure out the projects that you want to support and jump in. And
mhm.
I think that many are apprehensive because of what has happened in other spaces. And all the conversations I have is like, but. And so I think for me, my approach is, okay, what do you feel comfortable with? And let's start here. Because this
Mhm.
is a way for you to build generational wealth. And I tell people, like, even if you had dollar cost averaged over the last 3 years, and where you would be would probably be 100 times more than where you were, right?
Absolutely.
It would be even more than that, but I'm not getting into the math of it. But but you could have been so much just by doing little things like that, and that's just one strategy, right? But and so you could just do something, whatever you feel comfortable with, and that's how you create this generational wealth, right? And as you're doing that at your comfort level, you can learn more about it, how to do it more aggressively. You can do some of these other things, but this is an opportunity for us. And it's an opportunity like I've never seen, my parents
Right.
never seen in their generation. And so it's really it's a conversation that I find that I must approach
Mhm.
very gentle and with care, and actually thinking about the culture, knowing what are the misnomers, what are those things that we have that we know
Mhm.
about investing, and how can this set you up, like, and let's just talk about the digital economy, right?
Yeah.
What is that going to look like? Will there always be a dollar?
Right.
Right? Yep. And so what would be our medium exchange? We're already seeing even our local places using the digital currency as a medium of exchange for a coffee or whatever. And so these are things that we got to think about, like, what does the future actually hold? Like, it's,
Mhm.
yes, it's an investment, but it's also very real that we may be using this to transact our business and everyday um, transactions. So,
Absolutely.
so those conversations are really tough, but necessary.
Absolutely. And so much of what is preventing us from diving in further, even though we over index in crypto and under index, is when I'm thinking about the racial wealth gap and even the gender gap as well. Been doing a lot of work and research for another book and for articles and things of that nature. But then I think of when I first, so I got in 2017 in terms of learning.
Mhm.
I tried to academically approach it and quickly realized I really think I need some skin in the game. And thank goodness I don't have to have a whole Bitcoin. It wasn't what it is today. I'm looking at
Right.
the prices at coinmarketcap.com right now. And as of this recording at 5:32 on March 12th, the price of Bitcoin is 70,000 in the USD equivalent. And we know we've already reached the
Mhm.
newest all-time high when it kissed 72,000 per coin. When I first launched Advantage Evans Academy, the price was around 9, 10, 11,000 per coin. And we saw that first run up
Mhm.
to 19, and then ultimately the second ramp up to 67. That was recently eclipsed in the last 2 weeks. I think there are a lot of reasons for that. I think this is a new time for this maybe like third or fourth wave past a bear market moving into a bull cycle, but there are always these macroeconomic forces that
Mhm.
are the kind of the wild card. We couldn't see the pandemic coming, for example, where people were at home and on their computer, and NFTs were all the rage because people were occupied with that and a new technology. Then we had the crypto contagion year of 2022, where a few but horrific events happened that sent shockwaves across the industry. We had the Sam Bankman Freeze of the world. I don't know that we've still recovered from that because
Yeah.
this feels like the quietest bull market that I've ever seen. Right? You remember the last time, and we had we had like all of the celebrities and the Super Bowl, and then a lot of people got their hands smacked because we had
Mhm.
unregistered securities, we had touting, we
Yeah.
had people who weren't just advertising, but they were getting a cut of the business. So a lot of that falls to the wayside when we are in a bear market and people are building, people
Mhm.
are educating. This
Yeah.
is the best time ever, and it's quiet. Have you noticed that? Like I have a few
Yeah.
texts. Is it time? But there were a lot more 2 years ago. Your thoughts on the not even just cautious optimism, but people are super scared to get back in.
Yes. And so, I agree. Like, it's been so quiet. I've been waiting, which is why
Yeah,
I have to actually look, because normally someone is sharing, calling, texting, oh, did you
right.
see? Did you see? But it's been really quiet.
It's quiet.
And, I have taken that as a positive thing.
Mm,
I will say, it seems like, oh, wait, what's happening? But I think because just exactly what you said, people are educating. I think now people know they've realized the ebbs and flows of this.
right.
Like, what goes up sometimes comes down. And
Hmm.
so therefore you must be very smart about how you invest, how you contribute to this economy. Not get all riled up and excited. I think it's really about being intentional and
Right.
being mindful. And I think that because some people really did get burned the last
Absolutely.
time, that it's interesting. I didn't know if people would learn because I think, it's this culture of get the bag and all
Right.
this stuff, and get money that I thought it would be a bit like wild right now, and it's
Hmm.
not. And I really like it.
Yeah.
Because
I like the
I
quiet
see more,
times.
yeah, I see more educated. I see more opportunities around people offering opportunities to learn more. But I also have gotten some things that I see as a shift too,
Talk
Professor
to me.
Evans. I received in the mail a letter. I wish I had it next to me and had it for this
Mhm.
broadcast and this podcast. But I received a letter that was talking about Bitcoin giveaway. So what I've seen is before I think
Mhm.
it was one on one, hey, get into this. Come on, getting people in their DMs. I think
Mhm.
now it seems to be, for lack of a better word, more commercial.
Interesting.
People, because there's now sending out letters like the clearinghouse, right?
Ah.
And so now they're getting people, which also scares me on one hand,
Mm.
because now they're touching our grandmas, our your aunties. Those people are getting those things in the mail and they're reading them. Now,
Right.
the thing that may help is that they may not know what they're reading.
Fair.
But so that may help a little bit. But the thing is, knowing that someone is just sending out these letters and trying to get people in. So I've seen that even the way people are approaching this, and
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say scam because I can't say this. I'm not gonna find out.
Right. Right.
But that's what it
Right.
looks like to me. I'm not gonna say that's what it is, but that's what it looks like to me. Like now it's done differently. So I
Mhm.
think now it's like, oh, because people are talking about it more, because people are hearing more about it, they know more about it, they're probably more likely to respond to this letter, call this
Mm.
number, or respond, send an email to that email at the bottom of the letter. It's
Right.
really scary, knowing that so many people don't know enough and not educated, but yet these things are going out like mass, like it was like resident. It was like that. It wasn't to Tammy Francis. It was resident, which
Right.
means it's going to
That bulk
whoever has,
mail thing.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
the bulk mail and whoever has a mailbox, right?
Mhm.
So that's a shift that I've seen, which is also a bit scary. Although the quiet and the education part is good, I
Mhm.
also see some of those things happening now.
Yeah, I think it's because, some of the great news, because I wrote an article recently that said um, the Bitcoin is back and this time it's different. And by different, I mean good. And the reason is we have kind of some interesting dynamics at play. We have the recent approval of exchange traded funds for
Mhm.
to track the price of Bitcoin, which has been tremendous. And looking at coin market cap again now, since the time that we've been talking, it went from 70,000 to 71,000 change. I'm looking at the
Mhm.
all-time number. I'll say the all-time number in a minute because I have to count all of the decimals because it's quite big in terms of the
Okay.
return on investment. But all of this is happening. You see it on Yahoo Finance, you see it on Bloomberg, you see it on CNBC. It'll start to work its way back into the public consciousness. Although I think the news media is hesitant as well. They got a lot of things wrong. They got burned. They're good on the bad news and the sensationalism there. This is not a black or white thing. This is a nuanced discussion that also is really not about crypto. I
Mhm.
really have focused more on the idea of freedom and the different types of
Yes.
freedom. I'm interested in your thoughts of this. So as I've been unpacking what freedom means to me, after Black History Month, now Women's History Month, and we'll get to some other things, the idea of using the tools of wealth, money, of information, of education in order to create different types of freedom: freedom of money, freedom of time, freedom of option, freedom as Sanira, I think our last name is Madani. She owns, or she's like, she sold a $1 billion company. She's the head of CEO school, but talking about freedom of influence, which I think you have and I have because we know so much about this. But it's like the things that is separating us from that is a lot of fear of getting in or fear of missing out.
Mhm.
But fear is just not a great. strategy. It's not an investment strategy. It's not an educational thing. But because people got burned last time by FOMO, now
Mhm.
that is transformed into fear of getting in, or what I call fogey, because I kind of made it up. I don't know if that's the way to say
I
it.
know.
Right? So if somebody is, but I say all that to say, with exchange traded funds, there are ways that you can participate either in exchange traded funds,
Mhm.
tracking the underlying price of Bitcoin. That ETF has been, those ETFs, I should say, have been so incredibly successful. They have done better than most, if any, in the first 6 weeks, 8 weeks of their existence. The inflows are tremendous. And with Bitcoin, and I wanted to, the reason I pulled up this page is because the total supply will always and only be 21 million. And the current total supply right now is 19.6 million already in circulation,
Mm.
where most people still don't know what's going on. And where those who have exchange traded funds need to hold Bitcoin. So they need to buy from someone. They're not buying from you and me,
Right.
right? So more people come in, greater demand, a reduction in supply. We have the halving event this year where there'll be even more in circulate,
Mhm.
less in circulation, I should say.
Mhm.
We have the ETFs. We have clearing out the industry with the Sam Bankman-Frieds of the world. This is a pretty good story, but it's also a story that's not being told. So what do you think the influence of exchange traded funds, or the availability, but people don't know even about traditional investment, let alone about Bitcoin?
Yeah. You know, yeah, I think you just said it. I think that's it. Like I I I think that it provides security for
Mm,
those who were a little skeptical, right? Because
hmm.
now they have those things you talk like that. Now they can watch the price. Now they can get in different. It adds a few other ways to get into it,
Right,
but you still need to know how to own it, to possess
right.
it, to have it in your wallet, to you for you to have ownership of it. And I think that's the freedom part. Like
Hmm.
there's it, yeah, that makes you a little more comfortable at
Hmm.
in getting involved and getting in it. However, wait a minute, there's still some basic educational practices and best practices around it that you need to know. And I think that is being pushed away, pushed down, ignored in the midst of this. And so
Right.
that's what I see. I see, oh, now it's even, and I had moved away from having a lot of the crypto talk. I've really kind of folded it into how I talk about the future work and future of learning
Right.
and really have put it into that. But now I found myself in the last month or so, wait a minute, let's talk about this. This is what
Mm,
it means to self custody. This is what it means, right? Let's have a little cybersecurity talk as well, right? Let's have
absolutely.
these conversations. And so that's the part that I think that I'm most concerned about is that
Yeah.
people are still going some of the same things that we saw a few years ago or in the past before the ETFs. I
Hmm.
think some of those things can still happen because people are not educated at the basic foundational level of how to manage the asset.
When you think about your education around finances in your family, and when I think about, for all of my educational privilege, father's a doctor, mother's a lawyer, went to a small Quaker school for 12 years, then Northwestern, then Howard Law School. I've had a lot of great education. I have never learned as much about investing and finance as I did, as I was forced to do, as I had to reconcile, like, what is the point of this magic internet money? What is the
Yes.
point? Where does it come from? What is investing?
Why do I
um
care?
why do I care? Why should I care? Did you find yourself going through the same thing?
Yes, because my parents were not as educated or didn't have the
Mhm.
level of education of your parents. And so I really as you were talking, I wanted to say this, like almost
Right,
zero. It was
right,
really just watching other people and realizing, oh, this person is doing this and this person. And because I have, I think I've always been this kind of researcher inside, even before I knew I was a researcher or formally
right.
did it because I always looked at trends and patterns and figured out what's going on, what are the similarities and the differences between this and that. And because I've always had that analytical brain, there's some things I kind of picked up, but I really didn't have any formal training. It wasn't taught in school. Of course, we did the macro, microeconomics, we did those classes, but it wasn't realistic. It was really out there. And it was like, at that age, that was not the thing.
Didn't mean
You
a
just
thing.
needed to get the grade. We just wanted to get our high school credit and get up out of here, right? It
Right.
was kind of that thing. And so I found when I got into this, I was like, wait. Why is it so important? Like, I'm
Mhm.
doing fine. The dollar is great. That's what we use. I knew that's
Right.
what we
I love
used every.
dollars.
Yeah, I
Right.
love dollars. Like, this is what we use. This is how I pay my mortgage. This is how I pay my car. Like, this is it. This is what accepted. Why do I need to be concerned about this? And if I do need to be concerned, why are only a few people talking about it? So
Right.
then I got a little skeptical about that too. Like, wait a minute, if this is so important, if this is such a good thing, and this is the wave of the future, if I'm hearing about it, I know like most people do when they come in space, I know I'm late. So
I
why,
know that's right.
even though I realized I wasn't, but at the
Right.
time you think, well, if I'm hearing about it, I know I'm late. So why is
Mhm.
everyone not talking about this?
Interesting.
And then when you hear the scam stuff, you think, wait, maybe. So I realized that, I learned more about even investing in the traditional way
Absolutely.
because I wanted to learn about money in general, right? And how money works and what money is and the psychology of money. Go back to that.
Right.
Psych is my thing. So I like looking at some of those things before I could even like put my little $5 and see what this is and see what this is
Right.
about, right? And so I found that I was extremely more cautious
Hmm.
than I normally am when it comes to new things and innovative things. I'm always like, let's just jump in, let's go. But I
Right.
found that this, because of my financial literacy, was really low. And it was
Hmm.
like, oh, wait a minute. If it is that way for me,
Right.
what is it for those in my community?
Yeah. Found myself taking a step back to when I think about working with my membership club, the Digital Money Demystified Insiders folks, when I think about doing the free master classes, when I think about all of the other things, taking a step back because I'm I'm making too many assumptions,
Mhm.
and you can't start here when you got to meet people where they are, where I was
Mhm.
before. But in order to get to that point, it was the point of my book, and kind of demystifying this space enough to get people comfortable with, all right, at least I can learn.
Right.
And then to challenge our assumptions, check our mindset, and really start to shift. We have been, in my opinion, not Dr. Tammy, so don't add her, you can add me. We've been indoctrinated in a way not to trust ourselves, not to trust
Oh,
ourselves in
absolutely.
every decision that matters. So the ethos and the spirit of the crypto community broadly, Bitcoin community in particular, for maxis out there, is the idea of like, you are in charge. You have autonomy. You have agency.
Like,
If you
whoa.
can, right. And a lot of people actually don't want that. It was like, I don't want it. Nah, I want to go to the ATM. I want my direct deposit. I love dollars. Okay, you know who else loves dollars? Criminals. It's literally the number one currency used in nefarious activity. In fact, the activity devoted from crypto to that, it's not insignificant. We have rogue nations, we have scammers going to scam, but a lot of the scams in my texts and emails want me to send them dollars. And remember, like, the first use case of the internet was electronic mail, right? And there was evidently somebody in some other country that said, "Give me your bank account because I want to send you some money," right? Was that
Mhm.
a problem with mail? Was that a problem with email, or was that a problem with the scam?
Yeah.
Right. And so
Right.
we see the same thing here. All right, I could go on and on. I got to
Yeah.
get you back to your real life.
It's
Um,
okay. But I so agree because even
yeah.
things like the FDIC and looking at insurance, most people didn't know what that was really about and what it really
Right.
covered. But because I was one of them,
Mhm.
we wanted to transact that way with the dollar because we thought we had so much
Mhm.
protection, and some of that, yes, it's true on one hand, but there's
Mhm.
so much more to it. And I think, all those things that you mentioned, it just caused me like, wait a minute, let's learn
Right.
like the basics first before we can move into this. And so, yeah.
Absolutely. It's a part of empowering. I've never felt more empowered and more in control and more clear. I don't have all the answers, but I'm more well situated when we look around the world and not just the rumors of wars, but the wars. We think of the increasing globalization of economies. When we think of the space economy, like they're not going to pick one particular country's currency, especially not the United States, as being the not just the earthly global reserve, but in outer space as well. We
Right.
think about artificial intelligence and large language models and again space exploration. What will be the currency that all countries can agree to?
Mm,
It will not be beholden to a particular country, and it certainly will not be the United States. There are countries around the world that are reducing their
yeah.
dependence on dollars because we can't get our fill in the blank together, that we come up against, debt crises, that we had regional bank failures that people don't seem to talk about. Like, don't
Right.
worry your pretty little head about that. You have FDIC insurance. That FDIC insurance for banks is very low.
The key.
If I'm worried about whether or not I'm gonna get less than $100,000 back, I'm doing something incredibly wrong with my life, right? Ask the people from Silicon Valley Bank who were like, I'm not worried about $100,000. I'm worried about 1 million, and it's not assured up to that,
Yeah.
right? So, what are the ways that you can hedge your bets on inflation, whether you can hedge your bets on government issued currency in a way that you can still live, not just survive, but thrive in what will ultimately be in short order a new kind of shift to a new relationship with the transfer of value around the world, the liquidity that opens up when you don't focus on your little island, right?
Hmm.
Can't like wall ourselves off. I'm literally using that terminology intentionally. Can't wall yourself off from the rest of the world. You do that in this day and age to your detriment. So that brings crypto assets to the fore, and
Absolutely.
most people still aren't in it. So this is the time, right, where fortune favors the brave.
Yeah.
So as we think about like helping people get their mindset right, what are some of the lessons or takeaways that you can offer to the listeners and the viewers about where we are and where we need to be?
Ooh, that's a great question. Like, I gotta just
Mm. Let's
because
sit and let's take la. Let's pause and reflect on it.
yeah, really, really, I had to take a little deep breath. So those of you listening, I just had to take a deep breath
Mm,
because I think just knowing what has happened in the last 6 or 7 years and the
yeah,
progression, you have those people who have this fear of missing out, those who don't want to take risk, and you have those who are extreme risk takers and
absolutely.
really go more. And so, one, I always say you want to education.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be educated around this and connect with people
Mm-hmm.
who are reputable, who are um, at least will direct you in the right way so you can proceed and learn things on your own.
Right.
So I always want people to connect with the community. Find a community. Definitely be a part of the demystify community,
Let's go.
and learn more, because that's really important because then you can hear conversations from different perspectives and you can be aware. Exposure. You've got to be exposed to this. So you've got to take that little toe and put it in the water and give it a try at the level that you're comfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
that is different for all of us. And some people, talking about this extreme investing, they will go extreme because they want, no, no, no. This is not the time to do this. This is time to
At
think
all.
about the future. This is time to prepare for the future and to really do this in a strategic way. I'm all about strategy and being intentional. So experience and exposure is really important. And be strategic in what you do and have a strategy and make sure you know not only what you can afford, but your risk tolerance. Like,
Yes.
what is that? Like, know what that looks like for you. Because if you were to lose everything, how does that affect you and your family? how does
Yes.
that affect what's next for you? Your job, so some people, the things that they're doing, they have to also think about that because what are some of those policies and procedures at your job, right? So I think that it's those are the things that I always tell people when you are in this space is one, you want to be prepared for the future. You want to leverage it in a way that makes sense for you, but you definitely want to get educated. You want to connect with the community and you want exposure because you want that experience. You want
Yes.
to have a little experience with it so you know, okay, nope, I didn't do that right now. Let's reset, let's do this, or this is an area I need to learn more and do more. And then, just be strategic, be intentional, and be purposeful. Like always know what your purpose is and know why you're doing what you're doing. Are you doing it just because you like it? Or are you doing it because you support it? Or are you doing it because you actually see the value in it?
Hmm.
So, yeah,
Yeah, that's
I can go on.
powerful. No, yes. Pass the plate. I
Yeah.
think that was the shout moment. I hope y'all didn't miss it. The choir will now come in. Is there one who will come? Listen, this is so important that we get this.
Hmm.
The only impediment to participating in this is fear and lack of information.
Yes.
Stay away from the carnival barkers. Stay away from the people who say all crypto all the time and the ones who say no crypto any of the time. We
Yeah.
want to watch what they do, not what they say. I raised that because I saw earlier today Jamie Dimon from JP Morgan, for example. He's always said, Bitcoin is basura. My word, not his, but I'm sure he probably uses the word in English as well. And meanwhile, they had JPM Coin. They are one of the managers on at least one of the exchange traded funds. So JP Morgan is very much involved in the exchange traded fund launch, even though they don't have their own. Today or yesterday, he was basically like, I support your right to smoke cigarettes, so I support your right to buy Bitcoin. I don't see the analogy, but what I see is JP Morgan. He can continue to say, I hate it, I hate it, I hate it. If you really hated it, JP Morgan wouldn't be involved.
Right.
Don't listen to what they say.
Watch.
Watch what they do. Watch, BlackRock, and I own a not insignificant amount of Bitcoin ETFs issued by BlackRock. I have no particular affiliation, but if BlackRock, one of the most conservative companies in the world, decided to be a part of the first tranche of ETFs being launched, right? You think of Larry Fink and everything they said. Don't listen to what they say. Watch what they do. You want to
Yeah.
move like the banks because they're always going to see what that next thing is. They were hamstrung and kind of handcuffed in their ability to really move off the sidelines and in without a regulated product that they could offer. But now you have BlackRock, you have Fidelity, you have ARK Invest, you have all of these other things. I am on the board of Digital Currency Group, which owns Grayscale. So I'm not talking about that, but that is another product that was converted from a trust into an ETF product. There's so many opportunities, even if you don't. Now, this is not Satoshi's dream of owning an ETF that trades on the price of Bitcoin because you're not actually holding Bitcoin if you hold an exchange traded fund. Let's be clear.
Hmm.
But this is, from my point of view, starting to learn about the both and proposition of the autonomy and agency of holding assets that in times of war and peace, in times of crisis and plenty, is just going to do what it does because we can see the rules is transparent and no government or corporation controls it, right? Which may be why you hear the narrative of why this is terrible, terrible, terrible until they can figure out how to control it.
Control it.
They haven't
Yeah.
figured it out yet. So you need to figure this out. Dr. Tammy, have I said anything wrong?
No, not at all. Figure it out, y'all. And
No.
especially our
We
women.
have
Let's
us.
go.
We have no, we don't benefit from. In fact, if you see somebody under the guise or name of Dr. Tammy or Prof. Tanya saying, send me your money and we'll invest for you, it's
No,
literally, that's a scam.
that's a scam
This is about empowering you to make good choices,
to do it.
right? What we're dealing in is education,
Hmm.
so that you get this right, because the only thing that's standing between you is your mindset, your fear, and the information. We have the information. We have a range of opportunities for you to connect with us, to learn, to connect with the community so that it empowers you to make good choices and to do great things. You can do this. I don't know about Dr. Tammy. I
Yeah.
am not a technologist, and I
No,
did not
I talked about that. No.
take it tech adjacent. Okay, you can do this. I want you to not. You don't have to trust us. Trust the software and trust yourself. That
No.
when you have new information, you get to make a new decision. It's a new day. It's a new time. It's rare to come up in a time in your right mind with a reasonable portion of health, as my nana used to say,
Mhm.
to figure it out. You have better resources and tools than Dr. Tammy and I had when we first started.
Absolutely.
They ain't perfect,
Absolutely.
but they're way better than they were
Mm.
6, 7 years ago, right?
Absolutely.
So tell people how they can remain in touch with you, any words of wisdom that you can leave them as well. And then before we sign off, I want you to name like 3 amazing women that people should connect with for great information. I have my little cheat sheet in front of me, so I'm putting Dr. Tammy on. She's on the spot a little bit. She knows a lot of people. She knows a lot of great people. We know them together.
I
I'll
know,
let
and
you.
then you let me pick.
Right. I'll let you. Anybody you can think of, and you can use. I'll say Dr. Tammy is one of mine. So that's all right, right.
Professor
But
Evans,
all right, there you go. You got one of each.
Crypto Auntie is doing
Yes,
some with Ansela Ramsey.
amazing.
If you look for her on LinkedIn, um, Olayinka Oderi
Yes.
with the
Oh,
Black
did it?
women and
Yes.
blockchain. You know, even Granny Crypto. You may not follow her, but
Yes.
I follow Granny Crypto. I love following her. I love connecting with her and talking with her because she's just the she's just an example of what I envision for our community is
Yes.
that women of all ages are
Yes.
learning and getting
Hmm.
involved and at the
Hmm.
level that they feel comfortable. And so yeah, so that's a few. So
I
I
love
know
it.
I probably
I
did
love it.
four.
All right, and before we drop all of your information, I'll go and do mine. I had Ansela Ramsey on my list for sure, known for her work in blockchain,
Yeah.
education, underrepresented communities in the space for sure. And I'll give a shout out to Charlene Federepo. She
Yes.
recently won the FinTech Person of the Year. I was a lovely finalist. Charlene is killing the game. She does all of this global work, a lot of work on the continent of Africa. So we're going to give her a shout out for her work as a Bitcoin advisor, advocate, the
Yeah.
founder of GuideFi. She focuses on financial education. We're going to give a shout out to Cleb Messidor.
Yes. She was on my list.
Okay, yes, there you go. So, public policy
Yes.
advisor, founder of National Policy Network for the Women of Color in Blockchain, working with the Blockchain Association's foundation. We'll give a shout out. She's changed her name recently, but I don't have the new name on my list, so I'm going to go with the old name. The founder
Okay.
of Guapcoin, Tavania Evans, a
Yes.
last namesake. We haven't figured out our connection, but aren't we all connected? She's my cousin,
Yes.
evidently, who's amazing. Carmel Cadet, I just had an
Oh
interview with
yeah.
her. So, CEO and founder of MTech, which is a fintech company that helps central banks to adopt modern technologies, kind of the bridge from TradFi to the mainstream. We'll give a shout out to Naja Roberts as
Naja,
well.
yeah.
And one person who I learned about recently, I do not know her personally, but as I'm doing all of this research for my past, present, and future Black women in wealth, came across the name Kahina Van Dyke. Do you know her, Dr.
No, I
Tammy?
don't. I don't.
She is the global head of digital channels and client data
Hmm.
analytics at Standard Chartered Bank. So she's made significant contributions to blockchain and banking. And I'm going to reach out to, I don't know her personally. I'm going to reach out to her. If you're a listener and you know her, kind of like
Give
have
her
your
a heads
people call
up.
my people, call her people. So many
Love
people,
it.
when I think about hidden figures in technology, and then we have this financial technology where we're here, but we're here, we're making an impact. We got our heads down, and we're doing the good work. And just in closing, one again, I want to give you your flowers for all the things that you are doing, and to have you let folks know where they can learn more about you and your work.
Thank you. I am Dr. Tammy Francis everywhere. DR Tammy Francis everywhere.
Good.
And you can connect with me whether it's LinkedIn, X, Facebook. I Instagram, connect with me there. And yeah, drtammyfrancis.com is my website. You can also go there and reach out to me and connect with me through that platform as well. And so yeah, just follow me. Let's go.
Excellent. Right. As we always say, you don't have to do all the things, but you must do something. Don't make
Hmm.
us pull out our homework. This is not even
Yeah.
homework. This is life work. This is
Yeah.
mission work. This is freedom work. You can do this. We
Mhm.
can help.
Yeah.
But we have seen this transformation and we see the writing on the wall, and the world will change in the next 2 years more than it has in the last 10. We
Yeah.
don't have decades of time to figure this out. Even though as women we tend to be more conservative, we also, generally speaking, are in charge of our households,
Yes.
whether we're married or not, and
Hmm.
regardless of the configuration of your relationship, that we are the deciders. So we need to be about the business of not just trading our time for money, because there's finite time, but there's infinite possibilities with our creativity, with to be able to create and use our existing talents, our gifts, our skills in order to make those relevant and important in the future. Because guess what? I know it's a little bit of a sales thing, but the future literally is now.
Right now.
Literally, right now. You can do this. We can help. Join me in thanking Dr. Tammy Francis for being here, and let's
Mhm.
continue this nation building together, shall we?
We shall. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.